There are a few things in this world you can always count on: death, taxes, and an NFL referee absolutely destroying your Sunday. It does not matter which team you support. It does not matter if you've been watching football for 30 years or 30 minutes. At some point, a referee has looked you dead in the eyes through that television screen and ripped your heart clean out of your chest. And the worst part? He just picked up his little flag, jogged back to the center of the field, and moved on with his life like he had not just committed a crime against humanity. We have all been there. We've all screamed at the screen. We've all rewound the same play 14 times trying to figure out what on earth that referee actually saw. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is absolutely nothing, because he was not watching the right thing, did not know the rule, or simply had no idea what he was doing out there on that field. Today, we are going inside the most painful, most infuriating, most jaw-dropping referee disasters in the entire history of the National Football League. These are not just bad calls. These are calls that ended seasons, launched dynasties, changed the rule book, and in one truly unbelievable case, ended a player's entire career. These are the 10 worst referees in NFL history. Let us get into it. We're starting at number 10, but do not let the placement fool you. This one still hurts millions of people to this very day. January 20th, 2019. The New Orleans Saints are at home in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. The Los Angeles Rams are in town. The winner goes to the Super Bowl, the loser goes home. And the Saints, playing in front of one of the loudest home crowds in the NFL, are in complete control with under 2 minutes remaining and the score tied at 20 apiece. Drew Brees drops back and fires a pass toward receiver Tommy Lee Lewis, who is cutting into the open space along the right sideline. The ball is on its way, and then before Lewis can even get his hands up to attempt the catch, Rams defensive back Nickel Roby-Coleman launches himself like a missile and absolutely destroys Lewis with a brutal helmet-to-helmet hit. No flag, nothing, not a single yellow piece of fabric anywhere on that field. The stadium went silent for 1 second, and then it erupted. Players were standing with their mouths open. Coaches were screaming. Drew Brees had both hands on his helmet. Roby-Coleman himself walked back onto the field expecting a flag because he knew exactly what he had done. When no flag came, he ran off celebrating like a man who had just escaped a life sentence. The hit was 2 separate penalties combined into one catastrophic moment. Pass interference because the contact came before the ball arrived, and an unnecessary roughness helmet-to-helmet penalty on top of that. Either one alone would have given New Orleans a first down, let them run the clock out, and kick a chip shot field goal to go to the Super Bowl. Instead, the Rams tied the game. The Rams won in overtime. The Saints were robbed. Saints fans filed multiple lawsuits. The NFL was forced to temporarily rewrite its rule book to allow pass interference calls to be reviewed on replay, something that had never existed in league history, and head referee Bill Vinovich had to keep an extremely low profile for a very, very long time after that night. At number 9, we are not talking about one man. We are talking about an entire group of people who had absolutely no business being on an NFL field, and a moment so catastrophic it became one of the most iconic images in the history of professional sports. The year is 2012. The NFL locks out its regular officials during a contract dispute and replaces them with lower-level referees. College refs, high school refs, people who had never operated anywhere near the speed and pressure of a professional football game. For 3 weeks, it was exactly as bad as it sounds, but nothing compared to what happened on September 24, 2012. Seattle Seahawks versus the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Final seconds. The Seahawks are losing 12-7. Russell Wilson launches a desperate Hail Mary into the end zone. Packers safety M.D. Jennings goes up and catches the football, clean. He secures it against his body as he comes down. Every single person watching in that stadium and on television could see it clearly. Interception. Game over. Green Bay wins. Except, replacement referee Lance Easley runs in and signals touchdown for Seattle. At the exact same moment, the other official on the scene signals a touchback for Green Bay. Two officials, one play, completely opposite calls, simultaneously on national television. Aaron Rodgers stood on that field looking like a man watching someone steal his car in broad daylight and being told it is perfectly legal. The touchdown stood after review. Seattle won 14-12. President Barack Obama publicly commented on the disaster. The NFL later admitted Easley's call was wrong and that Golden Tate should have been flagged for pass interference before the catch even happened. The very next day, the NFL and Referees Association reached a deal and the real officials returned. One blown call ended a 3-week lockout overnight. And Lance Easley, the man who made that call, later revealed he had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder from the public backlash. The Fail Mary broke a man. That is the legacy of the 2012 replacement referees. If you were a Detroit Lions fan, you may want to look away for this one. December 30th, 2023, the Dallas Cowboys against the Detroit Lions, playoff seeding on the line. Lions trailing by 1 with 23 seconds left. They score a touchdown to pull within 1 and decide to go for 2 points to win the game outright. Jared Goff takes the snap. Offensive lineman Taylor Decker, who had properly reported to the official before the play as an eligible receiver, slips into the end zone and catches the pass. 2-point conversion. Lions win. Celebration erupts on the Detroit sideline. Then comes the flag. Referee Brad Allen rules illegal touching, claiming Decker had not reported as an eligible receiver. His reasoning? He confused Decker with another Lions lineman, Dan Skipper, because both players had approached the referee before the snap. Allen marked down the wrong man. Detroit was adamant they had done everything correctly. The NFL privately acknowledged the mistake after the game and issued a memo to all teams telling them to be absolutely crystal clear when reporting eligible receivers. That is the league's way of admitting they got it wrong without actually saying those words out loud. The Lions lost 20-19, and Brad Allen became the newest name on a very long list of referees that Detroit fans will simply never forgive. Jerome Boger spent years being one of the most consistently criticized referees in the NFL. His games felt slow, his penalty calls were often baffling, and his worst moment arrived on the biggest possible stage. January 15, 2022, Las Vegas Raiders against the Cincinnati Bengals in an AFC wildcard playoff game. Joe Burrow drops back and fires a touchdown pass to Tyler Boyd. The Bengals celebrate. But somewhere in the chaos of that play, an official on Boger's crew had blown a whistle, a dead ball signal, and under NFL rules, when an official blows the whistle, the play is immediately dead, full stop. That is the rule. The touchdown should never have counted. Boger allowed it to stand anyway. The NFL's response was swift. Jerome Boger's entire crew was benched for the remainder of the postseason. They worked 0 additional playoff games. In the world of NFL officiating, that is one of the harshest punishments a crew can receive. It was the league publicly announcing that what happened on that field was completely unacceptable. Boger retired after the following season, and that whistle followed him every single step of the way out. October 14, 2019, Detroit Lions against the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Fourth quarter, game on the line, Green Bay driving. Referee Clete Blakeman's crew calls hands-to-the-face penalties on Lions defensive lineman Trey Flowers on back-to-back plays. 2 flags, same player, same drive. Calls that kept Green Bay's offense alive when Detroit's defense had already done its job. The replays were absolutely clear. On both plays, Flowers had his hands on his opponent's chest, not his face, not even close to the face. Commentators, analysts, and coaches across the entire league watched those replays and genuinely could not identify what Blakeman and his crew had seen. The Packers scored. The Lions lost by 3. 2 phantom penalties on the same drive, back-to-back, had directly handed Green Bay the game. Detroit was fighting for playoff positioning. That loss mattered enormously. Blakeman's crew had reached into that game and rearranged the outcome with flags that had absolutely no business being thrown. Pete Morelli had a specific talent for letting games get completely out of hand. His crews were consistently criticized for unbalanced penalty counts and a complete inability to maintain control when the emotions of a big game began to rise. January 9, 2016, Cincinnati Bengals against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wildcard round. already the most intensely rivalrous matchup in the NFL. Emotions were at maximum from the opening kickoff, and Morelli's crew let everything fall apart. The game became one of the most violent, chaotic playoff contests in recent memory. Players were throwing punches. A Bengals assistant coach ran onto the field during a skirmish. Brutal personal foul penalties came from every direction. The atmosphere was completely out of control, and Morelli's crew had no answers. The penalty counts were wildly imbalanced against Cincinnati's players, drawing serious questions about whether the officiating environment had directly influenced the result. The Bengals lost the game, and many connected to the franchise pointed directly at the chaos Morelli's crew had allowed to develop. This was not a one-time event. In 2016, Morelli's crew was officially downgraded by the NFL and stripped of a prime-time game assignment after mismanaging the clock during a Chargers-Steelers game regular season. The NFL publicly punishing a referee crew by removing a prestigious assignment is extraordinarily rare. It said everything about the league's honest assessment of Pete Morelli's career. We are in the top 4 now, and this one goes far beyond football. Jeff Triplette was, by almost universal agreement among fans, coaches, and analysts, one of the most frustrating and incompetent referees the NFL ever employed. He was known for losing control of games, confusing fundamental rules, and making calls that seemed to exist in a reality entirely separate from what was actually happening on the field. But nothing in his career was as devastating as what happened on November 21, 1999. During a game between the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars, Triplette threw a weighted penalty flag. Referees do this dozens of times per game, except this particular throw sailed directly into the eye of Browns offensive lineman Orlando Brown. Brown was 6 feet 7 inches tall and 350 pounds, one of the most physically imposing players in the league. He went down immediately. The pain was severe and immediate. Brown charged a Triplette on the field in a rage before being restrained by teammates and coaches. The damage to his eye was catastrophic and permanent. Orlando Brown's NFL career was effectively ended by that flag. He sued the NFL and settled for a reported $25 million. He did eventually return to the league years later with the Baltimore Ravens, but the prime years of his career had been taken from him forever. The man responsible continued officiating NFL games for nearly 2 more decades. Triplette's final game was the 2018 wildcard playoff between the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs, where his crew was again widely condemned for a disastrous performance. He retired shortly after, and the NFL was a better officiated league from that day forward. January 19, 2002, Oakland Raiders versus the New England Patriots in a snowy AFC divisional playoff game in Foxborough. The Raiders are leading 13-10. In the fourth quarter, Tom Brady drops back. Raiders cornerback Charles Woodson comes on a blitz and strips the ball from Brady's arm. Oakland recovers. Game over. Raiders win. But referee Walt Coleman goes to the replay monitor. He comes back and overturns the call. He rules it an incomplete pass, citing the NFL's tuck rule, a regulation stating that any forward arm movement by a quarterback, even the motion of tucking the ball back into the body after an aborted throw, constitutes a forward pass and therefore cannot be ruled a fumble. The Patriots kept the ball. They kicked a tying field goal with 27 seconds left. They won in overtime. They went on to win Super Bowl 36. Tom Brady's legendary dynasty was born on the back of that single review. Ravens fans have never forgotten it. In 2013, NFL owners voted to abolish the tuck rule entirely by 29 votes to 1. The one team that abstained from the vote? The New England Patriots. Walt Coleman never refereed another Raiders game for the rest of his career, and every single time anyone mentions the tuck rule, his name arrives right alongside it. Phil Luckett did not just make one catastrophic call. He made history twice in the same season, in ways so completely bizarre that you genuinely have to see them to believe them. Thanksgiving Day, 1998, Pittsburgh Steelers against the Detroit Lions. Overtime. Steelers captain Jerome Bettis walks to midfield for the coin flip. He calls tails while the coin is in the air. The coin lands tails. Basic, straightforward. You call it, it lands on it, you win the toss. Except Phil Luckett claims he heard Bettis say heads. Bettis cannot process what he is hearing. The audio from the broadcast is replayed, and it is perfectly clear. Betta said tails, but Luckett awards the toss to Detroit. The Lions get the ball, drive down the field, kick a field goal, and win the game. The Steelers finished that season with a losing record. Phil Luckett botched a coin flip, possibly derailing an entire Pittsburgh season. But Luckett was not finished. Weeks later, Jets quarterback Vinny Testaverde dove toward the goal line against the Seattle Seahawks. He was stopped well short. His body never crossed the line, but Phil Luckett ruled it a touchdown. The Jets won the game. The evidence on replay was so completely indefensible that it did not just cause outrage, it permanently changed the NFL. The league had been debating reinstating instant replay for years. Luckett's phantom Testaverde touchdown ended that debate overnight. The NFL reintroduced instant replay the following season, and it has been part of the game ever since. One referee, one season, two calls so catastrophically wrong that they literally changed the rules of the National Football League. And here we are, number 1, the worst referee performance in the history of this sport. And the reason this sits at the very top is not just because the calls were bad, it is because the man himself eventually stood up, looked the world in the eye, and admitted everything. Super Bowl 40, February 5th, 2006. Pittsburgh Steelers against the Seattle Seahawks. The entire planet watching, and referee Bill Leavy proceeded to oversee one of the most one-sided, called distorted championship games ever played. It started early. Seahawks wide receiver Darrell Jackson made a beautiful catch in the end zone for what should have been a Seattle touchdown. Flag, offensive pass interference, touchdown erased. The replay showed almost nothing that warranted the call. Points off the board for Seattle before the game had barely begun. Then the Steelers scored on a Ben Roethlisberger quarterback sneak where multiple replays genuinely could not confirm he had crossed the goal line. The call went Pittsburgh's way. Then in the fourth quarter, with Seattle fighting back, a holding penalty on Seahawks right tackle Sean Locklear stopped a critical drive cold, the kind of hold analysts described as the sort of contact that exists on every single play of every single NFL game. It killed the Seahawks' momentum at the worst possible moment. And then came the final insult. Seahawks quarterback Matt Hasselbeck threw an interception. He then attempted to make a tackle on the return by going low, which is exactly what a quarterback is supposed to do in that situation. Bill Leavy's crew flagged him for an illegal low block. Hasselbeck was penalized for making a legal tackle. Pittsburgh received 15 free yards on an interception return because their opponent tried to play football correctly. The Steelers won Super Bowl 40. Seattle went home devastated. And then, 4 years later, in 2010, Bill Leavy did something no referee in the history of the NFL had ever done before or has done since. He publicly, formally, and sincerely apologized to the Seattle Seahawks. He told them directly, "I kicked 2 calls in the fourth quarter and I impacted the game, and as an official, you never want to do that." He said it out loud. He carried that guilt for 4 years, and then he admitted it to the world. And while that honesty deserves a degree of respect, it also confirms everything Seattle fans had been saying since the moment that final whistle blew. The game was impacted by the officiating. The wrong team may have lifted that trophy. No other call in NFL history has been officially acknowledged that way. No other referee has ever said those words publicly. That is what separates Bill Leavy's Super Bowl 40 performance from every other disaster on this list. It is the only one that came with a confession. And that is why it sits at number 1 as the single worst referee performance in the history of the National Football League. So, there you have it. 10 referees, 10 moments, 10 reasons why NFL fans have serious trust issues on Sunday afternoons. From Phil Luckett failing a coin flip, to Lance Easley inventing a touchdown that never existed, to Bill Leavy apologizing for a Super Bowl 4 years after the fact, this sport has delivered some of the most staggering officiating disasters in the history of professional athletics. The question now is, which one made you the most furious? Which call still burns inside you when you think about it? Drop it in the comments below, because I have a feeling this is a conversation that is only just getting started. And if you watch this far, you already know what you need to do. hit that subscribe button because there is a lot more where this came from. See you in the next one.